Hi, everyone, and a warm welcome to another episode of the Talk Room series of podcasts. In this episode, we examine the question of how to be your best self. And we do that by examining mental health and well-being and how this applies to people's daily lives. And for those people who have yet to see any of our previous podcasts, I'd like to introduce my co-presenter, Wendy, who is a very experienced and accredited CBT psychotherapist and EMDR therapist in private practice, who's been involved in mental health and well-being for well over 35 years now. So, Wendy, an absolute pleasure to be here again with you today.
Thank you, Ian, and an absolute pleasure for me to be here with you as well. And I'd like to introduce Ian. So, Ian, you are a senior accredited National Counselling and Psychotherapy Society member and the founder of Hope Therapy and Counselling Services. So, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Wendy. And today we're talking about an increasingly popular therapy called ACT, which stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. So, can we start, Wendy, with just an explanation of what ACT actually is?
Most certainly, Ian. And just for ease of purpose, I'm just going to use ACT as a short for the rest of the podcast. One kind of explanation is that if you ever feel, say, stuck in your head, or you feel trapped by worry, or waiting to feel ready before making changes, ACT is a therapy for you. So, what I'm going to go into detail on is what ACT is, the evidence based around ACT, and they act as six simple principles and how to use each one of those principles in daily life. And then I'm just going to go into some quick diffusion techniques, which I will explain as we go on. And these diffusion techniques help you to, what ACT would say, unhook from sticky thoughts. And I love that phrase, sticky thoughts. So that's my plan. So if it's okay with you, I'll start with what is ACT. So it's important to say it is a form of cognitive behavior therapy, and it helps you to, rather than challenge difficult thoughts, make room for difficult thoughts and feelings. Rather than fighting them, you're actually allowing them to be there without necessarily responding to them. And the second very key principle of ACT is understanding what your values are, what's important in your life. And then once you be clear about your values, to work towards committed action towards those values, doing things in your life which really matters to you. So ACT helps you to stop the struggle you can often have with your inner world of turmoil of thoughts and feelings and physical sensations, and taking away that energy in that fight and put your energy into living a meaningful life. So that's a little bit of an ACT introduction.
That's really fascinating, Wendy. So thank you very much for that. And you said that it's a comes under the umbrella of CBT, which is usually regarded as being quite an evidence-based way of working. And so I guess I just wonder if you can say just a little bit about the effectiveness of this therapy and the evidence base that sits with that as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we often have these discussions in it is important that therapy is now evidence-based, that it is actually based on decent research and is not just an idea or an opinion. I think we expect that now from therapy, and that certainly comes into that category. And there's been lots and lots of different forms of research into ACT, which I'm not going to go into now because it would take too long. But the evidence says that ACT is an effective treatment, sometimes more than others, and at least comparable to other established therapies, and helps with problems such as anxiety, depression, problems with substance misuse, and also chronic pain. And actually, specifically in the UK, NICE guidelines, which is what the NHS uses to establish whether a therapy is evidence-based, encourages clinicians to consider ACT for adults with chronic primary pain because it can really improve that individual's quality of life and also help to reduce psychological distress. So that's a bit of a brief summary as to the evidence around ACT being effective.
Wonderful. And you say brief summary. I know that you can explain these things in far more detail, Wendy. So I'm just going to ask you if you can just explain the main principles of ACT in a little bit more detail for those people that are listening in and maybe
Yeah.
be completely familiar with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so ACT sometimes uses words that aren't in the English dictionary. And one of the words it uses is called a hexaflex. What's that? So it actually, what it actually means, six flexible skills that you can learn. You can learn these skills. It emphasizes the importance that they don't have to be perfect. You just need to understand them and use them when challenges in life show up. I'm going to go through those six skills and hopefully they'll make sense to the listeners.
Perfect.
Hopefully. So the first one is called accept acceptance. And this means making space for stuff, your inner world. Again, I said earlier, the whirlwind of feelings and physical sensations and thoughts that we get stuck in sometimes. One, I think, really good idea is instead of battling these feelings, okay, resisting them, fighting with them, you simply just drop the fight. You allow them to be there. You're just like loosening a tight grip. Okay. Now, it's important to say this is not about giving up. It's about just acknowledging that they're there. But it is about dropping the struggle so that you actually, as I said before, put the energy into action and movement as well. So just to give an example, I'm sure people can relate to this. You've got that Sunday night dread before the Monday morning stress. So here it goes. You've got that churning in your stomach and you've got that feeling of anxiety. Okay, so you say, here's anxiety. So you just release your shoulder, a little bit of tension. You do a little bit of breathing and let the feeling be there while you just make a preparation for your work for Monday. You don't have to love the feeling to do what matters, but you work on preparing yourself for Monday. And then another example is you can put your hand on the place that you feel it most. A lot of people feel it around here as well. And then just do a gentle breathing exercise, breathing in very slowly and gently for 4, and then maybe out for 6. And then to maybe have a coping statement such as, I can carry this and still do what matters. Okay, so you're not ignoring the anxiety, you're saying it's there, but I'm not going to be overwhelmed with it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to carry on working on things that are important to me to prepare myself for Monday morning. The next one, number 2, is called cognitive diffusion. And this is another word that most people don't actually use. So it's a very much an ACT word. So it's really important to explain what this means. And one idea is actually this idea of thoughts being sticky and staying with you, can't get rid of them. So the idea is you unhook yourself from these thoughts. You take yourself away from these thoughts. So an example could be acknowledging that thoughts are simply sounds, words, and pictures that go on in our mind. They're not commands. So the idea of diffusion is you actually see your thoughts as thoughts. They're just mental processes. It's just the way our mind works. It doesn't mean they're right. It doesn't mean they've got any validity. They could be completely wrong. Okay. And just seeing them as just things that go on in your mind, and that in itself can have a positive impact on your well-being. So, classic example, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this as well. You get the thought before a presentation, I'm going to mess this up. Okay. So a traditional CBT would say, oh, challenge the thought, keep telling yourself you're wonderful, and all that type of thing. ACT would say, yeah, I'm noticing that I'm telling myself a story. This is just a story that I'm saying to myself. It does, again, I haven't even done the presentation. So what makes it me think I'm going to mess up because I haven't done it yet? And you just imagine it's just like a bit of noise going in the background, blah, blah, blah. But you keep on rehearsing your slides because that's important. Okay, so you're doing a positive action and just letting that thought just go away. Another technique you can try is, oh, I'm noticing the thought that I'm going to mess up. Okay. Oh, hello, thought. Oh, there's a thought there. And it just takes away the relationship you have with the thought. It just becomes different. You can actually see it more as a thought, and it creates a bit of a space, a bit of distance from you and the thought, this idea of stickiness and unhooking it. So that's a very simple way of doing it, but very powerful. So that's diffusion. The next one is basically mindfulness. They call it present moment awareness, but that's another word for mindfulness. It's being here right now. And what we're very good at doing as human individuals is time traveling. So we spend a lot of time in the future, we spend a lot of time in the past. In the future, if you've got anxiety, you're catastrophizing, you're worrying about what might happen. Sometimes if you're depressed, you ruminate. You go through all the things that went wrong in your past and you focus on them and you go through them again and again. The good thing about mindfulness, present moment awareness, is to actually focus your attention on the here and now and fully engage as much as you can on what's happening now. And that's just such a powerful way of being now. I'll give you an example. So there you are, you're eating lunch, but you're on your phone. How many people do this? And you're doom scrolling. How many people do this? So while you're doom scrolling, you're not really paying attention to what you're eating. So how ACT would ask you to be is to take a pause, put that phone down and focus on the food you're eating. Focus on the flavor, the smell, the texture, and just focus on actually enjoying your food. So you're not being distracted, you're being fully focused on the moment. Or another technique you can try to get you into more present moment awareness is the five senses. You might have heard of this one before, but it's a very simple thing. So it's just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And what I often say to people is you don't have to do it in that order and you don't have to meet all the sensations as well. It's just actually like a grounding technique to bring you back in the here and moment rather than struggling with all these thoughts going on in your head. Okay, so number 4 is called self as context. And again, that's a slightly weird way of describing it. So I'm going to give you an explanation what that means. So the idea is that there are different parts of you. There's a part of you which is a thinking part, there's a feeling part, but in ACT, they often talk about an observer part. And this part of you is actually just almost takes a step away from you and almost observing yourself in a third party and just notice, okay, that you get thoughts and your feelings, but they come and go. It's fine. Here it is. There's another thought. Oh, yeah, it's going again. There's a feeling. Oh, that's interesting. Where's that come from? Oh, it's actually going again. So you're always just looking more as an observer of your processes rather than be in it and fighting it. It's more expansive. Okay. And the more you do this, the bigger the experiences are. It gives you a lovely expansion of your thoughts and everything. So I'm going to give you an example again. So say you're having an argument with your partner, okay? And probably a lot of people can relate to this as well. But inside, you just take a tiny little step back and you say to yourself, okay, I'm noticing anger surging. I'm also noticing the urge to shout, okay? So you're noticing, but then you think, okay, hang on, I can make changes here. I don't have to respond. I don't have to react. I can take a step back and just take a pause and just speak slowly. And you can actually say to yourself, I choose to just watch my mind, but I also going to make a next step. So you're noticing yourself getting caught up in the argument. You take a step back, look at it slightly differently and think, hang on a minute, this is not really working. let's make a resolution. Okay. So that's number 4. Number 5 is values.
Mhm.
And this is all about what matters to you, what's important to you, what's the meaning to you, what's the meaning of your life, what are the things that are important to you. And this is how do you want to be? How do you want to live your life? How do you want to live your life today? And values are different to goals. Normally, what's best is you actually identify your values first and then you make goals from your values as well. Because goals are like short and measurable, values are more like an ongoing process of how to live your life. So, again, an example is maybe your values are being kind as a person, but also focusing on your own personal health. Those are 2 examples of values. So, what that actually looks like in practice is maybe you think a little bit more about nutrition, you think about creating a nourishing meal, you think about cutting out some perhaps unhealthy foods that you're doing. That's how you're living your life according to your health. Being kindness, what you could do then is actually try to practice speaking to people in a gentler tone, maybe offering a friend a text or sending your partner a nice, loving message, something like that. Because your value is, I want to be kind to people, I want to connect to people. So little by little, you practice that in your life as well. And then number 6 is called committed action. And this is really important. This is about very important part of ACT is it's behavior as well. So it's actually doing the actions, it's following through in the values. Regardless of how you feel, it's taking those actions. And it also talks about, which I really love, is just breaking things down into small little steps, repeating the steps. Even if you feel a bit discomfort, it's just those tiny little steps forward can make all the difference. I'm going to give you an example there as well. Say if your value is you want to learn more as well, there's something you want to learn. So what you might do is create an action. Say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a space where I do 15 minutes of study at 7:30, and I'm going to put the phone in the other room so I'm not doom scrolling. Okay, and anxiety might show up. Okay, thank you. Hello, anxiety, there it is. But I'm going to carry on doing my 15 minutes of studying because that's what I've said I've done. Okay, so just to give you a bit of a summary, so what happens is you're going with life and life gives you a curveball. Okay, so start by just noticing what your mind, body are doing, and that's present moment awareness. What's going on? How are you reacting to this? Just notice. And just notice your thoughts, name them as thoughts. Okay, I'm noticing that I'm thinking this way, and also being aware of any feelings and just allow the feelings to be there. You're not going to react or respond to them. It's just saying, okay, that's made me feeling anxious, and that's okay. Do this by reflecting on yourself from the observing self. Okay, so this is where you're looking at yourself and noticing all these thoughts and feelings. And then what is your value? How do you want to respond to this situation? What kind of person do you want to be here? It could be, say, your value is kindness. So, say you've had a difficult situation at work, that's your curveball. Somebody's perhaps been very rude to you at work. Okay, all right, so this is how I'm responding, but my value is I want to be kind and ethical to all people. So, even that person's been rude to you, you might think, okay, what is my committed action? Okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to have a conversation with them tomorrow in a very kind of adult, grown-up way. I'm not going to sulk or bang things around or anything like that. I'm going to approach them and ask to have a conversation because that's the sort of person I want to be. So hopefully that makes sense about how to use ACT.
That's absolutely fascinating, Wendy. So thank you very much for that. This ACT idea, which is a third wave CBT idea, isn't it? It's very different to the what we might think of as the traditional CBT or the traditional cognitive behavioral therapy approach. And I wonder if you can just say a little bit more about how else it's different.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I give an example from CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, you have a situation and then you have a response to the situation. So, say somebody, classic CBT, walks down the street and they ignore you.
Mhm.
And then your emotion might be anxiety because you think, oh, or anger even, why have they ignored me and how dare they ignore me? And once you've identified the emotion, there'll be a thought attached to the emotion. And the thought might be, I've offended them, I've done something wrong. And then the next stage in CBT would be to challenge that thought and say, what's the evidence that you've done something wrong? Have you done anything wrong? You've got no evidence that you've fallen out with this person or not. And then you have an action. Maybe I'll phone them and just find out why. Maybe they didn't see me and it was genuine. Maybe they're depressed and they're not looking out. It's okay.
Mm.
And that's absolutely fine. But what can happen sometimes with a negative thought is it's difficult to challenge, or maybe the thought is slightly true. Maybe you have fallen out with this person, and then what do you do? It's quite a realistic thought. So the idea is that you don't argue with the thought. You don't try to challenge it. Oh, I'm failing because I've still got the negative thought. Okay, and this is where the diffusion idea comes in. You almost an example could be using diffusion technique would be, okay, going back to the story idea, which I talked about earlier. So say you can't get the thought out that you've done something wrong. Okay, here we go. There's that story again. Here it is. There goes that good enough story. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, mind. You've told me that story. I'm going to move on. Okay, and then you go on and do a valued action. One of my favorites that I like is you actually draw the thought. So I quite like using like a stick person and the bubble thought as well. So you think about the relationship you have with this thought. So I'm not good enough. So little stick person, and then how big is the bubble, the thought bubble that I'm not big enough? Is it huge? Is it tiny? Does it go like that? Is it very loud? Is it shouting at you? And it's really interesting how people write that on a piece of paper. It's really good. And then you actually think about, okay, what would I like to change about this thought? So the thought you still keep there, I'm not good enough, because you're not challenging it. But an example could be, is that the second picture could be you standing on the thought and thinking, there we are, I've got victory over this thought. It's a thought, it's down there, it's below me, and woohoo, there's me. So that's a great example of using ACT as well. Another idea is using slow motion subtitles. So you simply just repeat the thought very slowly, word by word, as if it's appearing on a screen. And that's another diffusion technique. And another one of my favorites is an imagery exercise where you imagine that you're in a forest and the sun is streaming through the trees and you smell that lovely foresty smell and you've got the birds singing and you've got a little stream just by you as well. So you sit on that stream and you notice leaves go by. And what you decide to do is you take that thought, I'm not good enough, and plop it on the stream and watch it going away. Okay. And if it comes back again, boom, plop it on the stream, pop it on the leaf on the stream and watch it going away. And then the sun comes out even more and then you can bathe in the sunshine. So that is a lovely one for people to try. That's one of my favorites. And then the other one is cheers, mind. I know you're trying to help, and then focus on what you're doing. So you're trying to be a bit kinder to yourself and say, your mind's just protecting yourself. That's what minds do, and that's okay as well. And there's some guided practice, if that's okay. If I can just sort of
Please.
example of that, it's
Mm.
okay. Like a little bit of a guided practice that ACT might recommend is just sit comfortably, feet on the floor, just relax your shoulders, just get in a nice space. And then just notice and name whatever's going on. Okay, so here I'm noticing a bit of tightness in my chest. Okay, that's here. Ah, there's a thought. This is too hard. The thought, this is too hard, has come up. Okay, so let's just make space. Breathe into the feeling and just imagine giving a little bit more room inside your ribcage. And then, oh, here it is. The thought that this is too hard. Okay, I'm noticing that right now. And then what's my value here? This is too hard. I can handle this. I can overcome this. I can be courageous. Okay. So then you do something that you think is courageous. You change it by the action that you make. So you might overcome it by addressing the problem in the first place. You take an action, you deal with it. And that's a good example of ACT. What's really important, and one of the differences I think which people get stuck in, is people often want to remove a feeling such as anxiety or depression or whatever. Now, ACT doesn't says you the idea is you have the full range of feelings. You will feel anxiety, you
Mm.
will feel low, you will have a crap day here and there, and that's okay. It's about freeing up your energy from the fight with your inner world, so that energy you turn into a life that matters to you. It's not about getting it right all the time, it's about just keep on practicing. And when you make a step, it's okay to feel a bit anxious, a bit discomfort. That's okay. That's all part of growth as well. You're always encouraging yourself when you make these steps to, yeah, to be your own coach really and say, that's okay. Hopefully that's all right. A bit of a quick summary of ACT.
Absolutely fascinating, Wendy. And I can really see the difference in emphasis between the more traditional CBT approach and this sort of third wave ACT approach as well, which is really lovely. Thank you for just taking the time to go through that. And some really top tips in there as well. If people have listened to you talk about ACT and they're interested in that way of working, what should they do next? How might they get hold of you?
The best way of getting hold of me is through my website, wendycastellino.com. Sometimes if you just put my name into Google, Wendy Castellino, then various things come up because I've got sort of social media going on. So you can either text me or email me and the message will get through to me. And I've actually got a course on ACT that I deliver for people. And so they're very welcome to have very ACT specific therapy if that's what they want. Or sometimes people have a bit of a blend.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
And what about you, Ian? How do people get in touch with you? And I think you do ACT as well, don't you?
If people want to get hold of Hope Therapy and Counselling, they can go to our website, which is www.hopefulminds.co.uk. That's www.hopefulminds.co.uk. We have a whole team of therapists who work in a variety of different ways, and we have people that work in more traditional CBT approaches, as well as people that work in the sort of third wave type approaches like acting mindfulness, as well as a range of other therapeutic approaches as well. They're very welcome just to take a look at the website. There's a range of free resources on there that people can access completely free of charge. And people can also book in for a free consultation with us as well, which is completely without any sort of commitment, where we can just talk through what might be the most suitable approach for that particular client. So really just for me to thank you so much for today. I know I found it absolutely fascinating. I'm sure that all of our listeners and viewers will have done as well. So thank you so much for just sharing your thoughts on ACT. So thank you to you for that, and a thank you to all of our listeners and all of our viewers for taking the time to be with us and share this time with us today. So thank you very much.
Thank you.